Why don't you guys just introduce yourselves right on down, starting at the far end?
Sure. Hi, my name is Andy Mitton. I'm the writer, director, editor, composer.
Richard King, producer.
Charlie Tacker, I'm Finn.
Alex Draper, and I'm Simon.
So we know we have at least two Middlebury grads here, right? Andy and Alex, is that right?
That's the
And how many years apart are you exactly? When you graduated?
A lot.
A lot?
What are you?
Alex,
I'm a class of 2001.
Alex is the younger one, is what you're saying.
That's exactly right.
13 years.
Okay,
That's right.
so because these have a little bit of feedback, it sounds like some of the noises you heard in the film. If we're not using the mics, we'll probably keep them at a safe distance. So we're going to throw it to the audience because a lot of people stayed, but I just have a couple of questions to start with. Somebody tell us the origin story of the film, where it came from, how did you collaborate to get it made, and what was it like shooting it in Vermont, which is a state that doesn't really support its filmmakers with a lot of resources. So I'm very curious. I'm going to turn it over to you. Anybody can go.
Sure. I mean, I had worked with Alex Draper on my first feature, which was called Yellow Brick Road, which we also shot in New England. And I had left Los Angeles, but I had made a movie, had met Richard King, our producer here out in LA, and we wanted to make another movie together, and I wanted to make a movie with Alex. And sometimes the best reason to make a movie is out of desperation. Like, we got to make a movie or we won't be able to, the life doesn't give you many chances. So this was actually built around a production plan. As Alex and I started talking about it, I called him and said, I want to make a movie with you. It would be great to be in Vermont. We all know Vermont has no lack of scary houses. If you could find me a scary house, then I'd go ahead and write a movie for you and for the house. And we'd build a production plan with the college. The college was wonderful in giving us this house, Blair House, which they had bought a few years ago and weren't doing anything yet with. So they agreed, we could park there for a month and shoot a movie, and we would have students from the theater department and the film department work below the line, so they'd get a chance to get an experience on a real set with a bunch of real professional keys that were coming in from Los Angeles, New York, and other places. It would be a unique opportunity, and yeah, normally you don't come to Vermont because there's no tax incentive, but this was the best incentive of all. Add to that this is my happy place. I'm never more calm and comfortable than I am when I'm in Middlebury, and that if you can have even a dose of that on a film set, man, that's a beautiful thing. So it ended up being a really beautiful time. It was designed to be comfortable. It was designed to never leave its location, where we could drop anchor as a family, and not deal with a lot of company moves and dragging our equipment everywhere, and just focus on being creative and collaborative. It's the best, certainly the best creative experience I've had making anything.
Who else? Can you talk about Alex?
The only thing I'd add, because is that both of the movies I've made with Andy, he really throws out the sort of old-fashioned playbook of that can make movie making so expensive, which is this whole notion of a lot of independent movies. When they're made, you write a great script and somebody tries to buy it from you, and or suggests that you get a really famous movie star, and you do all these things that are built on an old-fashioned kind of playbook of how to make movies. And what Andy does is he gathers a bunch of people who really want to be there for reasons that are artistic, but also because we want to work with each other. And there's no sense of trailers or independent, there's nobody's schedule is adapted to how available, you know what I mean? We're all just there for the whole shoot, and we're all working together. We all stay in the same, we basically lived in that house, except for when we went home. But so it's a very sort of collaborative, fun working model that doesn't necessitate a lot of trailers or special anything.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Does anybody have any questions? We'll just jump to yes. Yes, go ahead and make sure you speak up.
Okay, where did this story come from? It's a wonderful story.
Thank you. I've been a horror fan my whole life, and I've always wanted to make a haunted house movie. And it came from, my stories tend to start with a moment that I know will happen somewhere in the middle that is the thing you would leave the movie talking about. And that moment, for me, became this moment of the phone call in the movie, this idea that there'd be a reveal that the people he was spending time with weren't actually the people he was spending time with. And that if I got that kind of rug pull right, there'd be a feeling that I'd be excited about as an audience member. So I didn't even know how that moment was populated or how it would, what context it would arrive in yet. But I got excited about that moment, and I built backwards and forwards. And my focus is usually just on like, as a horror fan, I have a certain amount of boxes I want to check when I want to see a haunted house movie. And I didn't want to ignore that side of myself. So, I really tried to focus on the story and trust the fact that the themes that I was writing about and the themes of parenthood in the modern era and the sort of evil that you can't protect your children from, that if I built my story right, those themes would flow naturally through the story and hopefully be held up by the story. So that was my approach, and this is what came out of after a lot of edits and a lot of help from, especially from Alex and from Rich and from my wife, who's not here.
We have a quick question for you. Charlie, describe working with Alex, what that was like, and you've grown a little bit from the end of the film. I'm going to guess, 4 to 5 inches, maybe? Describe the process of working on this film.
So, process of working on the film. The whole entire filming this was beautiful. It was really a great experience. Working with Alex, we kind of just had like a chemistry at the start of the film where, we were just fluent with the script, and we were comfortable with each other. And I was like 7th grade. It was like 4 years ago when I did that. So yeah, I guess I've came a bit from there.
So you're what? You're 15 or 16 now?
I'm 16 now.
16. Have you had any other roles since you played in this film?
Yeah, I've been trying to keep busy. I'm on season 2 of Castle Rock, but I can't say much about that. But I'm trying to do as much as I can.
More questions, please. Yes?
I just wanted to thank you for having an ending that, it's not this what's going to come, what's going to, go on. It had a real ending. It had, both of you were like father and son. You were wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
Thank you.
I loved it.
So you're not disappointed that there won't be a sequel? Okay. All right. Questions? Other questions? Yes? No? Yes?
I liked how you had green peppers. But so what was the whole thing with the delivery about green peppers? Because you can't get it from inside.
That's a little bit of a, some people here might know that we go the wrong way out of our driveway to go to town, or that's not really South Street, or so some of you guys know some of the realities of it, but that's not part of the plot. I mean, the idea is really that they've been in the house having pizza delivered to them by a restaurant that no one else but you guys and those who live here doesn't deliver. But that wasn't like a pointed, theme for the movie, advocating for. It's funny, just talking about the scary moment. One of the things that's amazing about working with Andy, and it sounds like I'm just here blowing his horn, but his process through drafts of a script is pretty astonishing. And so one of the first things that happened is he came up and we walked around and looked at Blair House, and he basically told me a story that we were going to shoot there. And it was quite different from the story that's on screen, but it absolutely, I was standing by the pond where we were standing smoking cigars in the movie when he got to the point in the movie where that phone call happens. And it was very different. It was with a bunch of other people, not with my son. But it was the exact same moment. And the hair on the back of my neck, I was actually kind of scared, and right there in broad daylight by this pond. And so what's amazing is how through all the variations and through the distilling of the script, that moment that he knew was sort of an anchor stayed there and actually got sharper and better. And another moment like that is that the ending of the movie that you brought up. It was fascinating because how in the last revision of the script, they decide to move in and stay in this house. and Andy sent me the script, and I read it, and I said, this is amazing, it's all fantastic. I'm not sure maybe it's because I know the other versions, I'm not sure I buy that anyone would actually stay in that house. How do you, and he said, I think I have an idea to fix it. And then the next, like 8 days later, the next version of the script had it solved. And to me, I buy it. Every time I watch it, I actually buy that those people would stay in the house that their father and husband died in. And I find that astonishing that the script is able to do that. And so anyway.
I have another question. So in films like this, sound is very important. Your sound cues, how you frame your shots and integrate sound to amplify the emotion that you're feeling as a viewer. Can you talk a little about the sound composition? So for instance, you used a fairly broad palette of sounds in order to convey discomfort and horror and all that. Where do those come from?
Well, I'm in this really lucky situation in that my best friend from high school, literally my lab partner in 7th grade, and like the guy I watched all these movies with to get inspired by, became a top engineer at Soundtrack New York. And so when I get to that stage in my movies, I go, literally, I'm sitting with one of my best friends on earth, who's given me, extra time in the studio, and we care about the same things, and we were trying to avoid the same pitfalls. We'd seen a lot of haunted house movies with a lot of just like chorus of eerie whispers coming from the walls, and sort of, so we wanted to build a broad palette, but we wanted individually those sounds to be specific. So when he puts his ear to the wall, you don't hear this wash of evil whisper. You hear one finger tap a few times, something intimate, specific, something we can sort of feel. And I also wanted the feeling of the house to feel organic, so that we were choosing sounds that were almost like a body was forming in the walls, sounds that were wet, kind of things sluicing around, so that you got the sense of the house as a body, which in the early drafts of the script, that's really what this story was more about, if Alex probably can recall. Yeah. You want to say anything about that?
Yes, you do.
Yeah, I mean, it was a long process, kind of getting not just the sounds. I remember a lot of conversations about how organic were the sounds going to be, and it was very layered. But even more so, not more so, but additionally with the score, just going back and forth a lot between the two of us. Like I would listen to a track, I would listen to the sounds without having the picture, just to try to put myself there visually without the visual aid. So it was a lot of back and forth, a lot of notes, and a lot of we definitely paid very close attention to all of those things, for the results that we got.
Yes, I think that showed. I really do. Who else has a question out there? Yeah, Kurt.
Alex, I'm going to bring you way back because there's elements of this that reminded me of a play that you were in college that Dana Yetton wrote called Big Boys in High Places, where you built a roof. That's Frankie.
Hi, Dana Yetton. Hi, Frankie.
And you built the set as the play was going on, and it seems like you guys lived on set for this film, and I'm wondering how long you were in the house, what it was like to sort of build it and live in it and film in it at the same time, because the house definitely grows, which I think that the sort of the text of the script references. I just thought it was a really interesting piece.
I mean, what I can contribute to that answer, which Andy can contribute much more, was that it was just a huge, in the same way that Andy said, it's a privilege to write a script for a location. It's also a really huge luxury to just be in that location all day. So we were there all day, and sorry, if we weren't filming a scene, if they were filming a scene with Charlie or with Linda, Carol, Lydia, we'd be hanging out in other rooms. And so we just basically were there all day, every day, and the light moving through the house that we lived was that light moving through the house that you guys see in the movie. So that that part was all sort of just a luxury. And then the art direction is really, we have nothing to do with that. And actually it's very skilled, because we had real restrictions on what we could actually do to the house because we didn't own it and we were being lent the house. So the art department did a fantastic job of, first of all, protecting the house from what we might do to it shooting in it, but then also making it look actually and then later on digitally like it was at different stages of its life. And we see the house in different stages.
Yeah. To be fair, the repair bill is a novella, so we did our best. But it was the art direction, the challenge, because when we left every day, it looked the same. It really did. So making it look like, in fact, if I would say if we had a bigger budget at the end of the movie, I would want, a bigger transformation. That's something it's one of the things I think about when it comes to the restraint. So that it felt that way it's just really nice to hear, and it's all about Sam Henson. Yeah.
How long were you shooting?
14 days total, and we had 2 days off.
I mean, it's crazy. I literally went from my last class to the set, started shooting, shot straight for 14 days. I didn't shoot the morning of the last day of shooting because I was handing out diplomas for graduation at Middlebury for the theater students, and then I went back in the afternoon and we shot, the last scene was the shot at the scene at Green Peppers. So.
I think you told me that story about the play where you guys were building the roof when we were in Spain, maybe? But it's funny you asked that question because he literally told me that story.
One last question, I think, and that is, what are you working on next, Andy? Do you want to talk to us about that?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a small pile of scripts I'm excited to shoot. I've just come out of a period of writing. We are in kind of a tentative, like a pre-production place on a movie called Doll Makers, which is a high school voodoo doll. It's very different than this. It is just, if this is the chamber orchestra, this is just sort of rock and roll. It's very, whereas this doesn't have a drop of blood, this next one would have a lot of blood. But it's actually mostly a dark comedy. It's, again, a little bit of a socio-political satire. And also in that vein, I have a new kind of a haunted high-rise story called The Albatross that is also very much a kind of a socio-political satire with sort of a dark comedy at its heart too. So I'm not sure which one is going to take off first. Then there's a wedding slasher movie that we'd like to do. There's a kind of a sci-fi crossover. We've got a lot of things we want to do. So look out for any of that. I can't tell you which yet.
And the two of you will be likely working together on whatever it is that emerges.
That's our aim. It's going well.
All right.
Unless I get fired. And then
Okay. We'll keep that in mind. What about you, Charlie? Are you acting in something now? Are you planning on it?
Yeah, actually. I'm on Castle Rock, but season 2. It's not out yet, but I just really can't say anything about it.
Right. Oh,
That's
yes,
the
you
second
mentioned.
thing.
Everybody has to sign some paperwork before they leave? Okay, and after that, because if they shot the season already, or?
They're shooting it right now.
Oh, I see.
But I'm trying to, I'm going to New York a lot, almost every week for auditions.
Mm-hmm.
It's really working.
I see. And that's going to be continuing during the school year as well?
Yeah.
Okay, that's challenging.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
hard, but it's
worth
to
it.
go. Yeah.
Yeah. And you, Professor, you're going to be going back to teaching here very shortly?
Yeah,
after your sabbatical?
Yeah, I got to spend a fantastic year in Bordeaux for the year on sabbatical, and now I'm back in my job in the theater department at Middlebury College.
I wanted to say in conclusion, it's a pretty skillfully made film, and many aspects of it work so well. I congratulate you. I know it's not the highest budget film, but it shows it's great collaboration and very high skill level. So I appreciate it. I like seeing it. I'd like everybody to give them a round of applause, please. Thank you.